And joining us now from Washington is Bob Schieffer and John Dickerson. Nancy Cordes is in Iowa. Bob, let me start with you if I can. Listening to Reince Priebus on your show this morning, he seemed to make a couple cases. One, that Hillary Clinton is someone America can't trust, a nod to the email scandal and more, and two, that she can be hypocritical, taking money from countries like Saudi Arabia while at the same time championing women's rights. Do these seem to be the points of attack as you see them now?
Well, they're certainly the points that we have seen the Republicans unfurl so far. And it underlines what I've always thought is going to be the main challenge for Hillary Clinton. She has to define for the American people exactly who she is and keep this campaign looking forward. She wants people to look out the front door and not the back door. I think one of the reasons that the email scandal coming up as it did, if it is a scandal, and I'm not sure I think it is, but I think the fact that it has come up could cause people to look backward and think back on some of the things that happened in past years. And what she can't do, she can't let that dominate the campaign. If she does, she's not going to win the general election. She's got to keep them looking forward. People want to know, what can you do for me now? And I think that's going to be her main challenge, Jeff.
And some of the people who have that question for her are the people in Iowa, where she didn't do so well in 2008. John Dickerson, let me turn to you if I could. First of all, you were just named Bob's successor on Face the Nation. John, congratulations. I could not be happier for you and for CBS News.
Thank you. I'm pretty darn happy about it myself.
Yes, it was so wonderful to see that, and we can't wait to talk to you for the next year and a half and much more as this campaign gets going. On the subject of Iowa, John, you've spent a lot of time there. You all have. John, what does Hillary Clinton need to do, and how is she going to do it differently?
Well, the good thing for her about Iowa, in a sense, is that bad relationship she has in the state, that history of bumpiness where she had a huge campaign out there and then Barack Obama came in and took her lunch in 2008. That creates a situation where she can say, I'm going back to the place where it's hardest for me. Even though I don't have a challenger, I'm going to grind this out as if I were down by 20 points. And the idea of that, that's what they're saying, of course. Now we'll see if she actually does it. But the idea behind that is that she wants to show she's taking nothing for granted. You heard when Bob asked Reince Priebus about Hillary Clinton, the first thing he said was she has this air of inevitability. They know that that word inevitability hurts her with voters. Voters don't like to see people who think they can just take the crown out of the box, put it on their head, and walk into the White House. And so she's looking like she's a candidate just starting out. That's going to be really hard for her to do because people know so much about her. But Iowa's a good place to do it also because she can have a small venue, hang out with people in rural areas as opposed to being in cities like New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, where you go to raise money. Iowa says something more about America. And the other thing about Iowa, two things quickly. One, it's a relatively inexpensive state. They can set up an operation there. But they need an operation there because it's a swing state. So in November, if she makes it through and becomes the nominee, she's going to be fighting for Iowa the way she's going to be fighting for Nevada and New Hampshire, other swing states. So all the work she does there now, she can put in the bank, and hopefully it'll pay off in the general election.
So, Nancy, in Iowa now, when this starts on Tuesday, these are smaller, more intimate sessions because the campaign thinks those are the venues where she can excel. These are not big, giant rallies.
Right. Well, first of all, I can confirm that Iowans are thrilled that John is going to be taking over this incredible program that Bob Schieffer has built. So you heard it here first from downtown Des Moines. But when it comes to Hillary, I think that she found 8 years ago when she ran for president that big, huge rallies maybe weren't her thing, that she did a little better when she was in these smaller settings. And so Iowa works for that reason. It also shows that she's got, as John put it, humility. She's trying to show that she doesn't believe that she's the inevitable candidate. She came in third here, after all, 8 years ago. And it didn't really work for her being inevitable either. In fact, it just makes you look like Goliath and everyone wants to pick you off. So she's coming here for that reason, and because she needs to show the people of Iowa a little bit of love. 8 years ago, they felt that she didn't perhaps take Iowa as seriously as she needed to, that perhaps she thought it was in the bag. And so she's coming here early to show that she's not taking anything for granted this time around. In fact, there was even a memo that the campaign strategically leaked over the weekend, sort of a mission statement put out by the person who's going to be heading up the campaign, Robbie Mook. And in it, he said, "We are all about humility." So it's really baked right into the mission statement there. Hillary Clinton not going to come across as the inevitable candidate, which is tough since she really is the 800-pound gorilla in the Democratic field. But they're going to try anyway to make her, as best they can, look like the little guy.
Well, Bob, let me ask you about that a little bit. They may want to position her potentially as an underdog here, but the bottom line is she doesn't have a serious challenger at this point, as many want her to have one. So how does all that shake out?
Well, that's going to make it harder for her. That's why some people say that, you know, she'd be better off if she did have a candidate. But again, just underlining what both Nancy and John have said here, Hillary Clinton has to be humble about this. She has to convince people that she's taking nothing for granted. I shall never forget a long, long time ago, but even before I came to CBS News, there was a race for governor down in Texas, and one of the candidates was a very qualified man named Eugene Locke. And he had a campaign song that said, "Eugene Locke should be governor of Texas. The governor of Texas should be Eugene Locke." Well, you know what? People out there in those days said, "We'll decide who should be governor of Texas. We don't need somebody to tell us who should be governor of Texas, especially one of the candidates." And that's what she has to guard against. That's why this inevitability thing is really, you know, a rock around her neck. She's got to show people that she doesn't take anything for granted, and that she wants this, and she's got to explain to them what she can do for them, because that's what people vote for. What can you do for me? I mean, and that's what she's got to convince them. And that memo you just said, Nancy just talked about, I think that's pretty smart politics to let that one out.
John, when we spoke with Amy Chozick recently, she said the big dog is still the big question, that being Bill Clinton, of course. And we saw the role he played in this parody on SNL last night, getting into the fake recorded cell phone video.
Yes, the big Saint Bernard. I think, you know, the role that when he played it well in 2008, he played the loving spouse who was on stage with Secretary Clinton, then Senator Clinton, showing that they have a real human relationship. He then also was a great advocate for her. He could say a lot of things about politics and what he knew as president and how her skills would fit right into that box. And he was very good at it because he's a very good politician. And so he could give the audience some of that love, that political energy that they get out of a good connection, a good rally. And she is not so good at doing that. And so that was when he was at his best. When he was at his worst was when, you know, one of the microphones caught him in a moment of lack of sleep or pique or anger, and you know, he didn't, when he was president, he operated in the middle of a feeding frenzy, often of his own creation. But the news cycle and media swarm now has grown exponentially. And so all the good work Bill Clinton can do as a surrogate can be undone in a moment if he says something out of anger. And because he does care about his wife and cares about her future and her chances, he will not go through this without passion. And so that's the balance, is he'll have hours of real help that he can cause her, but he might undo her in just a few seconds.
Nancy, if you could, from what we know at least, lay out the next couple weeks for us, both including Iowa and New Hampshire and wherever else.
Well, she's going to take it kind of slow in the beginning, Jeff. She'll maybe do a couple events here in Iowa, perhaps the following week in New Hampshire. They don't really want her sort of campaigning around the clock right off the bat. After all, originally the plan was to have her not even announce her candidacy until sometime this summer. But then they saw that, first of all, she kind of needed to turn the page from all this discussion about her emails, and also that the Republicans weren't waiting for her to jump in to start attacking her. So she really needed to be able to start rebutting all of that. So they don't want this to turn into a wall-to-wall campaign right now. They feel like she's got plenty of time for that, but they do want to start setting the stage, and they do want to come out and sort of explain what her rationale is for running once again for president. What is it that she wants to do? At least they can start to get her message out there, and frankly, they can start to raise money because the biggest challenge for her right now is that she's got a lot of very talented people that she has hired, but she really can't start paying them until she begins to unveil this campaign in earnest, starts collecting checks and donations on her campaign website and so forth. So you'll see a lot of fundraising being done, not necessarily by her. You won't see a lot of big glitzy fundraisers in the beginning. They'll keep her in some of these retail politicking events in these early states, and they'll start to raise a lot of money online.
Bob, I wonder if I can ask you, in the framework of your brilliant 5-decade-long career, whether you've seen something like this. I mean, you would seem to have on both sides two dramatically different positions right now. So the juggernaut in Hillary Clinton on the Democratic side, and as many have noted, one of the deepest and widest Republican fields ever. Does 2016 shape up as one of the more interesting races we've ever seen?
Well, since you have asked it in that framework, no.
Nothing else would be appropriate.
I tell you, who knows what's going to happen on the Republican side? I think this thing is totally wide open now. And the fact that you have only one candidate on the Democratic side, you know, that's going to make it hard for us as journalists to understand and to report on this campaign, because, you know, you're going to see these Republicans accusing each other of one thing or another, and there's nobody on the Democratic side. At least until we get in the general election, there's nobody on the Democratic side who's going to make those kind of charges against Hillary Clinton. So I think we have to be very careful how we report this campaign. But it's extremely unusual, you know, to have somebody that, I guess you go back to the back when President Roosevelt was president. I mean, there wasn't much opposition. You know, he would have opposition, but there was nothing like we're seeing here now. You know, every campaign is different. There are no two campaigns in American politics that have ever been quite the same, and we're going to see that underlined 3 or 4 times during this one. The other part is, you know, as people say, something may happen between now and then. This may not all come out the way we think it's going to come out right now. And so, you know, it's going to be a great campaign to cover, and I guess that's why we're already started on it, and it's still a year and a half away. In
earnest. John, the president in Panama last night said, quote, "She was a formidable candidate in 2008. This is Hillary Clinton, of course. She was a great supporter of mine in the general election. She was an outstanding Secretary of State. She is my friend. I think she would make an excellent president." What role does the current president play in electing the next one?
Well, there he plays one of his roles, which is reminding Democratic voters that she's been loyal, that she's tough, that she's smart. I mean, he basically went down all the line there. I think his role is to speak when asked to, and to the constituencies he needs to, particularly the African-American community. But then I think also stay out of the way, and sometimes take it on the chin, because he knows that if she's elected, his legacy is saved in a lot of ways. And so if he wants her to be elected, and by the way, the president's views of Hillary Clinton are different from the views of some of the people who have worked for him and who still have some of the scars from that 2008 campaign. But the president may often have to hear her say things about him that, you know, he might want to rebut. He's a very competitive fellow. And he's pretty much going to have to sit mum and know that her ultimate chances are helped if she can create her own sense of herself. And that sense of herself may be created in part by distancing herself from him.
Jeff, let me just add one thing to that. She may not want him out there in a highly visible way. The president has his detractors right now, as you know. So she's got to be very careful about how she approaches that part and when she wants him to speak and how much she wants him to participate. So
interesting to watch. Nancy Cordes is in Iowa. Nancy will speak to you again very soon. John Dickerson is in Washington, and so is the brilliant, yes, we use that word appropriately, Bob Schieffer. Bob, I have not had a chance to speak with you, but I have learned so much watching you over the years. I have just treasured every conversation I've had with you. I want to say congratulations to you on this day, as we also say congratulations to John. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jeff.
We will talk to you all soon. You're watching CBSN.